Hi, I'm B, and this is BeeTalksBooks, where we talk everything books. If you've been here for a while, you might notice that things look a little bit different, and it's because I have rebranded my whole channel. I want to lean more into my book content, and I'm just really excited for this new direction, so I hope you stick around. Today, we're gonna be talking about my Q1 reading wrap-up. Okay, that was a mouthful, but I'm really excited because I've read some really good books this quarter. I've read some 5-star bangers. I've read a bunch of thrillers and like bingeable reads. I also read some emotional books as well, like historical fiction, and there were a few books that just didn't hit for me. So I'm gonna share everything that I read, what I rated the book, and give y'all my spoiler-free thoughts. So let's get into it. I want to start with my 5-star reads for the quarter, okay? Now, these are the books that I 1000% recommend. The first book is The Measure by Nikki Erlich. This is a speculative story set in a near-future dystopian world where everyone in the world receives a box. When you open the box, there's a string. And then they later find out that the string measures the extent of your life. Crazy work. This was a very emotional read for me, and I don't even think it was supposed to be emotional, but it made me think. It made me think about my life and the way that I live, and what if I knew the exact time that I would leave this earth? How would I live my life? It followed different characters, multiple POVs. I ended up falling in love with all of the characters to the point where by the time I got to the end of the book, I was boohoo crying. It really sat with me long after I read it. Very emotional, very thought-provoking, and highly recommend you checking out The Measure by Nikki Erlich. My next 5-star read is, of course, my boy John Marr's The Marriage Act. This is considered like a dystopian thriller where their marriage is monitored and controlled by the government. Can you imagine? This book sent me on a wild ride. The next 5-star read for me this quarter was Daggermouth. Now, y'all know this book was hyped up on TikTok, so I had to get my hands on it. This is like a dystopian romance. I couldn't put this book down. I ended up actually starting the book in the middle of me reading another book, and I didn't even get back to the other book until I was done with this one. So this follows a dystopian world where there's this divide between the elite and the oppressed underclass. There's this enemies to lovers going on, and that's all I'm gonna say. This is by H.M. Wolf. Now, I did see some reviews that was like it was overhyped. Not in my opinion. I think the book was well written. There is supposed to be a part 2 to this, and I can't wait till it comes out. The 7 Daughters of Dupree by Nikisha Elise Williams. Now, this was out of my normal genre, but it follows a multi-generational family, so it's a very character-based book. You're just looking at different generations of women within the same family and how trauma is being passed down between each generation. The timeline and the different POVs, and it just kept me engaged into their stories. This was an emotional read. It was a bit heavy, but it was worth it. It actually made me want to do research on my own family, who my great-grandmother or my great-great-grandmother, where my lineage of women in my family actually come from. It makes you want to dive into that. If you're into heavy family dynamics, definitely check this one out. Now, let's move into my thrillers. I've realized that I'm a thriller girly, and that's just who I'm meant to be. Fast-paced, twisted, easy to fly through. These weren't quite 5-star reads for me, but they were still very good books. So, still recommend them. All right, so the first book I got here is What Lies Between Us by John Marrs. Obviously, John Marrs has become my favorite author. I just love his books. This was the first thriller that I read by him, and it did not disappoint. We got a mother and a daughter relationship that is the most toxic relationship. I thought I had mommy issues, but I ain't got shit on what Nina and Maggie got going on. The way this story unfolds, the twists and turns, had me gasped. I gave this book a 4.75 out of 5 stars. Definitely go check out What Lies Between Us by John Marrs. Next book is His and Hers by Alice Feeney. Now, if you don't know, this book actually was a series that came out on Netflix this year, and I didn't realize that it was a book until I was midway through the series. I did end up reading this book after I watched it, and it still did not disappoint. This was my first Alice Feeney read, and I really like her as an author. It follows Anna, who is a news reporter, and Jack, who is a private investigator. We're just trying to figure out who did it. Who did it, why, when, where, and how. I did rate it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Definitely recommend you checking it out, both the book and the series. The Arrangement by Kirsten Moglen. Now, this book was so psychotic, diabolical, all of the things, and I loved every minute of it, okay? So we have, I believe her name was Ansley and Peter. They are married, and I guess they've been having some issues in their marriage, and they decide that, you know, they want to date other people every week and see where that takes them. Maybe it'll bring them closer together. The dumbest shit I ever heard. Everything that could go wrong with this arrangement went wrong with this arrangement. Shit just starts happening, and it happens so fast. This one was such a fun, chaotic read. I gave this one a 4.25 stars. All right, so next we got On a Quiet Street by Serafina Nova Glass. Love this one. This was more of a suspense thriller. It had me on the edge of my seat. Okay, so we're following 3 suburban housewives on a quiet street that ain't so quiet. Just think Desperate Housewives in book form. And Desperate Housewives used to be my show. We follow Cora, who is like the nosy neighbor. She suspects that her husband is cheating on her, but she ain't got no proof. Then we have Paige. Her son was unalived by a hit and run, and she suspects that one of her neighbors did it. Then we got Georgia. I was so scared for her. Basically, she's being held captive. That's all I'm gonna say. I ain't gonna say no more. I gave it a 4.5 stars. The Family Experiment by John Marrs is also in the Dark Future series. It is set in a dystopian world where several families choose to compete for a prize. But hold up, the competition itself is where shit gets crazy. So each family goes onto this television show, and they have to take care of a virtual AI baby on national television, live stream for 24 hours every freaking day. So on the clock. Think of Tamagotchi on steroids. The crazy part is the child ages every month. After month 1, the child goes from a newborn to 2 years old. Then in month 2, the child goes from 2 years old to 5 years old. And they're doing this for 9 months up until the child becomes 18 years old. And at the end of this, it is up for the world to decide who wins the competition. Now, in between all of this, there's secrets and a lot of shit that happens. There's twists and turns, and you're like, what the hell is happening? And I loved every minute of it. I did give this one a 4.75 stars. All right, so the next book I have is The New Year's Party. I read it in between reading other books because I just needed a palate cleanser, just something to get the edge off. There's 3 couples, and they all end up at the same hotel restaurant, and they're all at the same table. And then one couple poses a question at the table. That's all I'm gonna say. Just read the book. It's 50 pages of fun deliciousness. I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. The last one on my list is The Wife Before by Shanora Williams. This one was more of like a domestic thriller, and it follows my girl Samira. She is down and out. She ain't got no job. She ain't got no place to stay. She's struggling, okay? She ends up meeting Roland, who is a professional athlete. They fall in love. They get married very quickly. She ends up moving into the house that he actually used to share with his ex-wife. But when she moves into the house, she starts finding things out about the ex-wife, and it just goes into a whole spiel. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. Now I want to move into more of my emotional literary reads. These were slower paced books for me. They dealt with deeper themes. The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. As you can see, I did a lot of annotating in this book because there were so many big words that I'm like, I gotta look up these words. This was one of these books where I really had to take my time while I read it. I couldn't rush through it. I had to sit with it. I had to do some research to get more of an understanding of her meaning behind each of the words in this book. I didn't want to rate this book because it wasn't about entertainment for me. It was more so about a perspective and educational. So this is basically about a young Black girl growing up in, I believe it was Ohio, and she just really wants blue eyes because she thinks that having blue eyes will just fix everything. It will make people see her, love her, because she didn't feel that. She didn't feel love. She had a lot of self-hate. She was literally taught to hate herself. And it's very sad, but also eye-opening. I saw this docu-series on Netflix. I think it was called The Caterpillar. And that series reminded me of this book because the guy in that series, he was traveling all the way over to India. He was a Black gay man to get gray eyes because he thought that that would give him attention and everything that he needed to feel fulfilled. It really makes me sad for people, especially children, that thinks this way about themselves, to where they feel like they have to change their eye color to feel something. And I just wish that Pecola knew that she was beautiful no matter how dark her skin was. And the way that Toni Morrison writes, this was my first book by her, absolutely impeccable. I've never read a book like this. I have a whole collection of some of her books, so I am gonna read more from her, but this one I had to sit with for a while. If you are not really into strong word ethics, deep themes, then you might not pick up a book like this. But if you want to go outside of your comfort zone and try something different and learn something, Toni Morrison is where it's at. And then my other heavy hitter is Parable of the Sower by Octavia Butler. Now, this is also a dystopian novel, but this was written back in the 90s and it's set in like 2025. This follows a dystopian future America where the world is basically collapsing. There is so much chaos and violence. The world is on fire, literally. We follow Lauren. Her community becomes destroyed and she has to leave what she knows and go on this journey of discovery. She ends up creating this religion herself called Earthseed, where basically God is changed and she meets people along the way. I did give this one a 4 out of 5 stars. Now we're gonna move on into my lower rated books. These are the ones that were just okay for me. I don't necessarily recommend them, but if you want to check them out, sure, go ahead. It's your free will. The first book is The Teacher by Frida McFadden. I'm not gonna go too deep into this. Just know that this book pissed me off, and so did Frida. Because it was good until it wasn't. It was the plot twist for me. The plot twist ruined it. This was a student-teacher relationship, so cringy. I felt like it was very messy, and it left a lot of things unsaid, and I just did not enjoy the ending. I think I gave it like a 3.5 stars. Do I recommend this book? No. Moving on. The next book is Monday's Not Coming. Now, this was a book that was hyped up on TikTok. We're following a young girl, Claudia. Her best friend, Monday, goes missing. No one knows where the hell she is. Her mama don't know, the teachers don't know, and nobody seems to be looking for her. So it's very odd. And the only person that is trying to look for her is Claudia, her best friend. The chapters were very confusing on the way that the timeline switched. Very devastating story. A lot of people enjoyed the book. It is a YA book, and if that's something you're into, go ahead and check it out. But for me, it was a no for me. Sorry. And the last book on my totem pole, The Best Man, Unfinished Business by Malcolm D. Lee. You follow Harper, Jordan, and Robin, and it's basically a love triangle. I hated it. I hated the storyline. I hated the plot. In the movie, I felt like Jordan was doing too much. If you know, you know. If you don't, I'm sorry. If you did not watch the movies or the series, you would probably find this book boring. And if you did watch the movies and the series, then you would be like, oh, okay, that's what happened, cool. I think I rated this one a 3 out of 5 stars. Overall, I felt like I had a good quarter. It really showed me what I loved in a book, what I didn't love. I love fast-paced, twisted thrillers that are engaging. I love multiple POVs. Not a huge fan of YA, slow-paced books, unless it's giving me something that can stick with me. My favorite book of this quarter was The Measure by Nikki Erlich. Loved it. And my favorite thriller was The Arrangement by Kirsten Moglen, because it was just fun and crazy and diabolical. If you've read any of these books, I would love to know your thoughts. And if you have any recommendations based on my taste, definitely leave them in the comments for me. If you're new here, welcome to BeeTalksBooks. Please don't forget to subscribe to our bookish community. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up because it really helps support my channel. And if you're already a part of the community, welcome back. I really appreciate you being here and chatting books with me. Until next time, happy reading.